everyone. Welcome back to Veterans Table Talk. I'm Luann, 22-year service veteran of the Canadian Armed Forces, and our other host is
Jose. I'm Jose. I did 13 years in the Canadian Armed Forces as well.
Welcome to our spooky Halloween special. Tonight, I know, right? We have a special guest, Robin Tropper. He is the creator and the performer for our Andrew Sister Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy on the hautbois, or oboe, as most people would know it. Welcome, Robin.
Hello, thank you, Luann. Thank you, Jose. I was going to say Andre because it's written Andre on that little application there. It's a real pleasure for me to be here and a real privilege too, especially after that interview you did with Jill Young-Husband the other day there. What wonderful people you have on this show. I only have 8 years in the primary reserves as a bandsman, so really nothing to boast about, but your show is so wonderful. I couldn't refuse to come in and do this Halloween special.
Thank you so much. I didn't get a chance to do a proper introduction, so maybe you should do it. It's probably better if you do it for yourself anyway. So you have 8 years as a reserve bandsman.
That's right. So after going to a Conservatoire de Montréal in music, well, you need to do a job and you need to make ends meet kind of thing. So join the Army Reserves where you can actually earn a living doing music. And but it's the actual Army. I mean, you do your basic training with everybody else. And I did my combat leadership course with infantry, artillery, you name it, they were all there.
Right. So like you said, you mentioned you went to the Conservatoire to study music.
That's right.
And this was always your instrument of choice.
Yeah, the oboe, le hautbois, was always the instrument that kept me going all my life, really. And that's pretty much true for all musicians in the military, actually. Musicians in the military, you're already a musician before you go in. You do your QL, I don't know what they call them anywhere, your trade levels, your qualification levels.
Yeah,
they change from year to year anyway, the names. But it's really just to secure your summer job, because by the time you're in, you usually have your bachelor's degree or somewhere along that line.
Yes, because so do you come in as a private, as a musician? Do you have to, or
you do
you get?
Yeah, you do. So that's the funny thing, is that typically in the military, if you have a bachelor's degree, you're an officer. But you can't do that in music. It's not possible because everybody has the equivalent of a bachelor's degree. So you go in as a private.
That's not
fair. It doesn't seem right, does it?
No, that's still not fair.
Well, the officer is going to be the conductor, right? And you can only have one, so that's what happens. But on the flip side, though, is as soon as you get your military training, you go up in rank really quickly. So,
I was just gonna say, is it automatic as soon as you finish basic, you get your promotion at the same time, or do you have to do the same time in as regular force for that?
It depends on a case-to-case basis there, but back in my days, this was in the 1990s, so I don't know how things are today there, but it's usually pretty accelerated. You get private 1 year, and then you get corporal the next year. Then you have to do combat leadership if you want to go up to master corporal and sergeant and all that. And your qualification level, I mean, you try to spread it out and do other courses, because that's going to be your summer job. So you only do one trade qualification level one summer, and then you keep it for the next summer and the next summer.
Right.
So like you said, you were in the reserves. Can you explain to our to the people listening what reserves means compared to active service? Does that mean only in the summer, weekends?
Well, that's pretty cool, because the reserve forces is what the movies would like to call your weekend warrior kind of thing. So it's different according to your trade, according to your regiment, according to your town, I guess, because it's a part-time job. Whereas what I used to call the regular forces, I guess you call it active service or something like that. That's your full-time job. That's your career. It's a regular job. But the reserves, it's a part-time job. You do something else for a living, or you're going to school, something like that. So I was lucky. I was in Montreal, and in Montreal, in the Army band, because we also had a Navy band, we also had an Air Force band, all of those were reserves as well. But the Army band worked a lot. So we would have at least, and you work at your trade. So our trade was band, was the music. So we'd have one rehearsal every week. That's half a day's pay. And we would typically have, on average, one parade or one mess dinner every week because Montreal was very busy. And we
Mhm.
also served a greater area in Quebec.
Right. Yeah.
So that's usually at least one day's pay, so per week. So we
Yeah.
were paid pretty well
Yeah.
for reservists. Yeah.
Yeah.
But also in the summer, you do your regular military training with everybody
Right.
else.
Yeah, I actually worked when I was regular force, full time. I got out, I released, and then I went full time reserves. So I worked full time in a reserve unit for 3 years, and then decided to go back to the regular force. So I flipped back over and went back regular force. But the rest of my career, I spent working actually as a reserve support service in the reserve unit. So very familiar with the reserve world. Um, I hats off to every one of them. I mean, a lot of regular force, there's this sort of they make fun of them because they're weekend warriors, like you said. There's a lot of I guess what they call military jesting between reg and reserve. I don't know what else you want to call it, but um
Well,
uh
well, the fun.
I found them the most rounded as far as like they were, a lot of them were doing university, they were holding down full-time government jobs in the public service and doing this on Thursday nights and weekends and whatever. So I had a lot because I could barely get through a day. I don't know how they were doing that plus that at night. Like I was exhausted at the end of a week. So my hat off to anybody that's working as a reservist and out there working full time as well, because this is a voluntary thing for you guys.
Yeah, well, it's like we say in Quebec, c'est changer le mal de place, taking the pain and putting it somewhere else. So you couldn't get through more than a day's work because that was your day's work. For us, we do something else, and trying to find the right words here. Going to the service after to the your military training afterwards, it's not a hobby, but it's really a change of mind. It's a change of mind frame. So it's
Yeah,
refreshing in that way too.
I guess.
And
Yeah.
being more physical, being more in your face, honest kind of stuff, that's really refreshing when you have to spend all day watching what you're saying and, just
Yeah.
being super incredibly careful.
So I'm
Well,
sure a whole bunch of people want to know, what kind of music do you play in a military reserve band?
Oh
get
my, oh my, oh my. Yeah. So that's the whole mission of the band. So the band is PR. It really is PR. So we're going to play everything from classical to Broadway to movie music to the latest and greatest rock hits. If you can find something that sounds good arranged for the band.
So
Oh, yeah,
it's
the
not
time.
always God Save the Queen.
Gosh,
No.
no. No,
Okay,
no.
just
No,
let the editors know that
but
that's the only thing.
No, it's not just British Grenadiers all the time either.
Yeah,
Of course, we play
exactly.
lots of regimental marches. We learn all of
yeah,
the national anthems because we'll often play for embassies and stuff like that. When
right.
we're playing on parade, every regiment, every unit has a quick march and a slow
Yeah,
march. The slow
yeah,
march is for inspections. So we'll learn those. Drummers have a lovely time because if you're playing in a symphony orchestra, it's very precise, it's very artistic, but the drummers, the percussion in a symphony orchestra are mostly good at mathematics, counting the
yeah,
time that they have to wait until they play that one note.
yeah.
Mm.
True.
But in the military band, they're gods. They're
Yeah,
downright gods. Same with the brass section.
yeah. Well, it's that's like the pipes and drums,
Yeah,
man. Drums are, they make it. When you
yeah.
see the pipe bands marching down with their pomp and circumstance. I'm from Nova Scotia, so
Mhm.
I played bagpipes actually growing up. I tried to learn, couldn't get past the pipes, but I was good on the chanter. Yeah, so
Never
I
tried them.
no, well, it's similar to, so I played clarinet too growing up. So, and I tried the oboe as well, the hautbois.
Aha.
See, I learned. So I've tried, I played a lot of woodwinds growing up, and I settled on the clarinet. So very similar but different, right?
Yeah. Well,
In my notes, it says talk about teamwork. So you had something to talk
oh,
about teamwork.
well, you were talking about the superiority complex between the reg forces and
Yeah.
the reserves. There's that between the combat trades and the bandsmen, of course. So one thing that was really, really funny is that I did the ceremonial guard here in Ottawa, changing the guard in front of Parliament Hill. I did that for four summers. And the funny thing is that by tradition, the drum major, normally in your regular band, the drum major is just another musician who's climbing the ranks and getting responsibilities. But for ceremonial guard in Ottawa, by tradition, it's a guardsman. So it's either a grenadier guard or a governor general foot guard sergeant who will be the drum major. And they do that on purpose. I don't know if that was the original intent, but they do it on purpose because typically the guards hate the band, because they figure we have to do this dangerous stuff that we hate. We have to get yelled at all day and, run in the muck and all this ugly stuff. And they get to sit down in an air-conditioned room and play music all day long.
Right.
So
Mhm.
So then the sergeant, who becomes drum major, will go outside with us on parade. Will participate in our rehearsals to learn the music and to figure out where they do the moves, move the mace and all that stuff, because they had the motions of a drum major are very precise and they're meaningful. So the sergeant has to learn those movements, and that goes with the music. And after, I'd say, 1 month. So this is a sergeant typically who has been on active duty, who has got shot at with a UN deployment of some kind. Typically after about a month, they'll say, the band, chapeau, salute, and you bloody guardsmen, you don't know anything about discipline. Look to them for discipline. So that's one side of the teamwork. But there's the flip side of the teamwork. You'd think that in a band of 30 to 50 musicians, or in my case, in a symphony orchestra of 80 to 120 musicians, you'd think that we know teamwork, right? Not quite. When I did my combat leadership course with artillery people, with armored people, with, fantastic, infantry, with infantry
Yeah.
people, with all kinds of combat trades, some of whom had been in Bosnia at the time, came back and were just getting their ranks. So I went on that combat leadership course with all these combat trades, and they were saying, you bloody musicians, of course, our instructors were master corporals and sergeants from the combat trades, you bloody musicians, you don't know anything about teamwork. Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Well, it turns out they were right. It's playing in an ensemble, you're still focused on your instrument, on your sound, on you. Of course, you have to fit in with everybody else and all that stuff, but it's still me, how good am I kind of thing. Man, it doesn't work that way. We were paired up. At first, it was supposed to be a combat leadership course only for band. And there was another one for all of the combat trades. Some general comes onto the base. This was in Farnham, Quebec, at the rifle ranges over there.
Hey,
and
I've been there.
And they say, no. 10 musicians, 10 candidates for the course with, I don't know, we had 5 instructors versus there were 40 candidates on the combat trades with only a few instructors. No, we're going to pair everything up together and even things out. Us musicians, I'm no kidding, we were scared for the first few days that the artilleries or the infantries, that they were going to rip our heads off and do stuff like that. Well, it turns out after a few days, we found out that the combat trade people were scared shitless. Oops, can't say bad words here. Turns out that the combat trades were scared out of their wits of us musicians bringing down their standards. So after a little while, we start talking around and after about a week, we got along super well. What we were good at helped them, and what they were good at helped us. And the result was the standards had hardly ever been so high on a combat leadership course. It was a wonderful time.
Yeah, see, there you
Teamwork
go.
makes the
Yep.
dream work, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
We learned how to be a little bit less boastful. Yeah, okay. I might have a university degree, but you're no idiot either. You're pretty good at what you do, kind of thing.
yeah.
So
Well, we all have our niches to fill, and
yeah,
it's how we, you know, build ourselves into that wall to become that wall
yeah,
altogether, and we fill those niches and we help each other out. So,
yeah.
no, that's an amazing story, actually.
Well, it was super
Uh,
cool because after that, oh, listen, one of the best compliments I've ever had in my life. I mean, one of the 3 or 5 best compliments I ever got in my life was on that course. So we were sent out in the field, and the different sections, the music section was one section. They left us that way. And out in the field, and it started raining in Farnham for the first night we were out there. So confusion was through the roof.
yeah.
And so the other sections are walking around, and clearly us musicians did not know what we were doing. So I was in my ground sheet
Hoochie?
cover.
Your
Hoochie. Yeah, I
hoochie.
was in my
Hoochie?
hoochie
Yes, you're hoochie.
individual.
I
I found a
remember
way
that.
not to get wet. And
Yeah.
I hear the other sections walking by. Who the hell is section 3 senior tonight? Never mind. Just go see Tropper. He'll get things done.
There you go.
So that was one of the best compliments I ever got.
Right
And
on.
not long after after the course, I got my master corporal almost immediately. And the next summer, I was requested to go instruct basic training for Fusil Mont-Royal in Montreal.
Oh, so
Wow.
you got to use your drill voice.
I got to use my drill voice. I got to
Awesome.
actually run circles around the platoon during PT the way,
Oh,
the
yeah.
master corporals were doing.
I hated
Yeah.
PT.
Me too. That was my least favorite thing ever. I hated it.
I'll tell
Me
you
too.
something, as an instructor with only your t-shirt and shorts, it's a lot easier than carrying your FN
Yeah.
C9, sorry, your
Yeah.
C9 or your FN1 and all that stuff.
Yeah. Oh my God, you served when there was FM1 still in?
We still had it. I trained with the C7, but we
Yeah.
still had the FN C1.
I don't
mostly
even
for
know what that
training.
is.
Oh my.
I'm
year-
C7.
What years did you serve, Robin?
From 1990 to 1998.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, the FNs were.
I think
Still
when I
in
did
then, yeah.
my basic training in Gagetown, it was the first time that they were bringing in the C7.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Lugging those around. I've seen them. No thanks. Actually, I was with the Rangers for 6 months on a tasking, and they still had the FNs. They switched them out after I left, but I did get to do a couple of different drill moves with the FN out there. It's weird the way they did a couple things, but
So did they look like C7s or smaller or bigger?
No.
or-
More
They're-
like an AK-47 or British
Yeah.
style.
Oh,
they're
yeah.
weird looking.
Ah,
Yeah, yeah.
huh.
Google it. Google
Yeah.
it. They're
Okay.
weird looking, and they're heavy.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're actually quite heavy.
Wow.
And I found it awkward, actually.
So now
The
what do you
drill.
do with your spare time?
Oh, well, with my spare time, I do as much music as I possibly can. I play in the Canada Symphony Orchestra. That's a community orchestra over here. You know, I went to university as a musician, but, earning a living in Canada as a classical music's not exactly easy. So I just didn't have the nerve for it. I didn't have the nerve to go through the sacrifices that it takes while you're doing your auditions, while you're
Yeah.
placing yourself, getting your first jobs and all that stuff. I just didn't have the nerve for it. So I went into teaching. What else will a frustrated musician do, eh? So I taught grade school and high school in Windsor, Ontario for a couple of years, where I also did the Windsor Military Band at the same time. But teaching's not a job, it's a vocation, and it just wasn't
Yep.
mine. And so
Yeah.
I got out of there and I came here to Ottawa, continued to serve. I couldn't continue in the reserves for all kinds of reasons, but I continued to serve my country, I guess, by working full-time with the commissionaires while I
Okay.
went to university. I went into university as a software engineer, because you got to do something, right?
Yeah.
and going to university is the only thing I knew. So I figured, well, that's how I'll reorient myself.
What
Yeah,
about
so
your YouTube channel?
well, that came after. So while I was doing software engineering at university and all that stuff, the oboe, I wasn't in the army anymore. So the oboe kind of stayed in the closet for too many years.
Yeah.
And then my wife, after I graduated with my master's in software, my wife had this tradition from back home where, for 1 or 2 weeks in the year, it's kind of like Lent for Christians, but instead of sacrificing something, it's a discipline that you give yourself. So she said, well, how about you take that oboe of yours out of the closet and just give it 15 minutes a day. So I said, oh, geez, I used to be pretty hot. And now, God, I know it's going to be a nightmare because the oboe was blinking hard to play. Pretty
Yeah, it
much
is.
every encyclopedia will say that. So I took it out and it was hard on my ears and it was hard on my face and it was hard on my ego.
On your lips?
Oh,
On
yeah.
your lips, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But the 15 minutes a day after 2 weeks, I just got hooked. And during that time, part of getting hooked means that, okay, the internet started going crazy. This was in the early 2000s. So the internet started going crazy. So there were discussion groups all over the place. So I joined this one discussion group, and part of the difficulty of the oboe, seeing as you two see it on video here, is this oboe reed over here. It's a double reed because there are 2 reeds that are strapped together on a tiny piece of brass tubing that you can't see because of the tying, because of the thread that's tying it. And it doesn't have a mouthpiece like the clarinet. It's just 2 reeds that are tied together.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to make them ourselves. And the reason we have to make them ourselves is because it's so blinking small that any difference in the shape of your mouth or the air pressure or your physiognomy or all of those things really change the way your reed will behave. So we make them ourselves to suit our own physique and to suit our own artistic goals and stuff like that, because how you make the reed will also determine what kind of sound you're going to have. Can you play loud? Can you play soft? Are you focused on one type of sound, or are you more flexible? And there's no right or wrong in there. It's really what you want to develop as an artist. So in North America, we love to complain about how hard the oboe is to play. And we love to complain about how hard it is to make an oboe reed. Thing is that I was educated at the Conservatoire de Montréal by a guy from Trois-Rivières, but he did his conservatoire in Paris. So I'm one of the lucky last few in Quebec who learned the French and the European way of playing the instrument. So when I hear people complaining about how hard it is to play the instrument, I figure, well, why? Okay, the reed doesn't play the way you want it to. Well, that's why you practice every day. So I started getting myself into trouble with people that way by saying, come on, no, reeds are not that hard to make. Come on, because we make them differently in North America compared to Europe. I like the European way of doing things. And so I figured, okay, if I'm going to start getting people upset at me with how it's not really that hard to play the instrument and make reeds, I might as well make a blog and show what I'm capable of doing on YouTube. So I made a YouTube channel to sort of track my progress after 10 years of absence from the instrument. And just show myself over time getting better, and also track, because I also have to I had at the time to battle against fibromyalgia. That's a chronic pain syndrome that has no explanation. You're just always in pain for no apparent reason. Doctors can't figure out why.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Oh yeah, I had, well, yeah, it's especially worse for women. Still don't know why. Nobody knows why, but
yeah, it's weird.
Doctors didn't know what to do. I had that for about 17 years. So during that time, I put my stories on a blog to encourage people, because those discussion groups had people talking about their experiences with arthritis, with breathing disorders, with all kinds of stuff, with old age, simply old age. And that inspired me. If they can do it, well, I can do it.
Mm.
And if I'm going through hurdles, well, maybe my story will inspire other people as well.
Exactly.
And it
Lo and-
did.
It did.
And it did.
Lo and behold, a few years later, I had 98 countries visiting my blog. I don't
Wow.
make money off of this. It's just sharing my story. That's all. 98 countries. And after 10 years, 300,000 visits
Yay!
Wow. Yay!
That's awesome.
for
That's
a classical
amazing.
instrument. And I'm
Oh,
not
that's
even a star,
amazing.
Well, you are a
Well,
star.
I guess so
are.
now. Yeah.
You're our
That's
star,
cool.
Robin.
So yeah, so that's
And we have him play our music. Yay!
I
Yeah.
Not only
know.
are
I
we
was like, woo!
yeah. Oh yeah,
icing
that
on the
was
cake.
fun. When Luann
You
asked me to
scored.
do that, I couldn't refuse. I mean,
Yeah.
I got interested in Veterans for Freedom, of course, because of James Topp doing his wonderful thing. Oh my God, the first time he did that video in uniform in the park, I was flabbergasted. I'm a guy, I'm not supposed to cry. I was a master corporal and drum major, for God's sakes, but my throat was just frogging, and so much
Yeah.
hope coming with that. And then to
Yeah.
see people rallying behind him all the way from BC to Ottawa, and oh my
And he's
God.
done. He finally walked all across every province except for the territories. He is done.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, unbelievable. It's hard to believe it's over, eh? Just
I know.
yesterday.
Yeah.
I know. So proud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so I joined V4F, Veterans for Freedom, because of that, and that's how I met Luann, and then talk about all kinds of things and hook up on Facebook. And then I met you, Josie, that way. And she said, "Well, do you know this tune, Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy?" No, World War II music, definitely we don't know that. Band music, that's in Windsor. That's almost all we played, because
Yeah.
the Navy tradition and the armored tradition over
Yeah.
there, very British. So
Yes. Well, we've had a lot of compliments on that choice of music, actually. So thank you very much for that. I mean, you did an excellent job.
oh,
laid
thank you,
down
thank you.
How many? That was what, 3 tracks you had to lay down and put together with all the.
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny, because I'm playing all the parts in there, and
Yeah.
I wanted to do the bass on my oboe and have the computer, reduce bring it down to the register of the bass.
Yeah.
But it's not a hard part, but it's repetitive. So, and it doesn't ever stop. So I can't breathe anywhere.
Yeah.
So there's that problem. I can't breathe. And that causes, because it's repetitive, it's a big concentration effort. So I just couldn't do it in the end. But I figured, well, the other parts, I'll record them more slowly. So
Mhm.
that'll give me a chance to try the bass part more slowly. But
Mhm.
it was not the speed. It's not hard. It's not difficult. It's just never ending. That was the problem.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
ended up not doing the bass on the instrument, but I already had 3 good takes for the 3 Andrew sisters.
Yeah.
So I put those together, and I got my computer to do the bass and the piano part.
Yeah.
And but then I put that all together, well, way too slow. So I got the computer to speed it up.
Yeah.
So I'll have to redo it, because right now it makes it sound a little bit artificial, and I like it to sound more correct.
Hey, you
Yeah.
go right ahead.
No, nobody can notice. We didn't
No.
notice.
But if you think you can do a better version, we're not opposed to it. That's no problem. You're gonna play a little something for us tonight?
Ah, well, maybe in honor of Halloween, something spooky there.
Yeah, a little spooky.
Let's see.
spooky. Yeah, because I want to move into the Halloween. You got a spooky story or two, I hear.
Yeah, well, the thing is I really don't have anything to boast about in terms of military service. Really, this is one of the things I loved about your interview, you two together, Josie and Luann, the first time, and then your interview with Jill Younghusband. Wow, that super fantastic, and I really hope other men join on board too, and other women as well. Because it's so cool to have a different perspective, and it's so cool to find that, okay, in the reserves I have less of that experience, but we still have the same experience.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Like,
So let's see if anybody recognizes this there.
Oh, that's really good, Robin. Thank you so much. So you got some spooky stories for us, I hear. And that's kind of why we wanted to bring you on for our spooky Halloween special.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, I'll start off with a little preamble, because I find that Halloween is an underappreciated, I'll call it a holiday, and I'll call it Holy Day. And now with the resurgence of neo-paganism, and you'll see witchcraft all over the place, they call it a holy day. But I'm going to preamble that with something else, is that, and normally when you use the word faith, we talk about Christianity. It can be a whole lot of other things. I self-identify as a Catholic because, bon, Québécois, francophone, bien sûr, on est élevé là-dedans. We were born and raised in that in Quebec. Maybe not the current generation, but back in my days in the 1970s, 1980s, that was, you know, it was taken for granted. You'd get
We all have Mary and Joseph as a middle name.
Yeah, Joseph, indeed.
Joseph.
Yeah, exactly.
So, or Catherine and that kind of stuff, Saint Catherine and all that stuff.
Yes.
And my oboe, I actually gave her the name Cecilia after Saint Cecilia, the patron saint of music.
Yeah.
So I identify as a cafeteria Catholic, might be better. I pick and choose what I like. But that being said, we underappreciate the value of a holiday like Halloween, because we tend to forget that faith and all that stuff is supposed to prepare us for the ugly parts of life. And holy cow, the military is a place where you can see the ugly parts of life, in combat, also in administration, sorry.
That's truth.
Also in the politics between the ranks, between the various units and stuff. The politics is evil as far as I'm concerned. And also between personalities. I mean, you've got all kinds of people in the military. I joined because I wanted a job. I learned to appreciate the value, the humanitarian value of the military by working side by side with people who had been to Somalia, with people who had been to Cyprus. It was a long time before Afghanistan there, but I joined the year that Operation Desert Storm started. I joined as a pacifist. You know, I hated war, and I thought that the military, it's a good thing that it was the band, or else I never would have joined. But then our captain said, listen, our band captain, he said, listen, Operation Desert Storm has started. If you want to quit, I won't get in the way. I will accept your resignation, because we might actually be called to go. And so I thought about it really carefully, and I was listening to the news and how bad, anyway, let's not get into all of that there. So I had a heart-to-heart discussion with my parents, my family, and all that stuff. And I said, if they call me to go, and if I have to risk my life, I think this is a worthy cause. Afterwards, we found out appearances can be deceiving there, but there's no doubting. There's absolutely no doubting the heart, the honor, the integrity, and the goodwill of the soldiers who go. Soldiers, NCOs, you know, junior officers, that kind of stuff. They go there because they believe they're doing good in the world, especially in the UN operations.
Yes.
So, but there is a lot of ugly, and Halloween is there to remind us that it exists. We will eventually die. I believe there are demons in the world. I believe that they work through us sometimes. And Halloween was meant for us to face all of that stuff. So whether you're a Christian, or whether you're a Buddhist, or whether you're Taoist is not really a religion, but anyway, whether you're a Hindu or a First Nations shaman, pejoratively called witch doctor, so we know what we're talking about, or whether you're one of those neo-pagans, or a Rosicrucian, or a Templar magician, it doesn't really matter. I've actually looked into all of those things, and I've never found any reason to be offended as a Christian. They never asked me to, I was never asked to renounce my Christianity, to look into those things. And the people that I've been with, maybe I was just lucky, I don't know, but the people that I were with were generally well-meaning people who were just exploring something else. But to them, Halloween can be an actual holy day. And
Yes.
well, turns out that in the army, I had a couple of spooky stories happen.
Like what?
Ooh.
Give us
Oh.
some information.
So the reason for all that preamble, and I'm sure you're going to cut out a bunch of pieces there. A reason for that preamble was that when I did ceremonial guard here in Ottawa, for those who don't know, changing of the guards, I guess you're not military, because changing of the guards in Ottawa is an official function that was commanded by the Queen herself when she came to Canada long time ago. And we wear the red tunics and the big bearskin hats, and bearskin bonnets. Sorry, they're called bearskin bonnets. They really are bearskin. And it's not so much the heat, but the weight of those things that are terrible.
No kidding.
And the heat of the tunic, which is, whew. Anyway, it's a good thing we play and we have to concentrate on those things, because the guards that drop, and we like to make fun of the guards dropping to the ground before their rifle hits the ground.
That's not fun though.
It's not fun. And the reason they do that is
awful when they hit.
It is. They'll break their noses and all kinds of things. Oh
yeah, I've seen it.
But they'll fall more often because they have nothing to concentrate on. So their mind just goes in a blank. Us in the band, we have moves to do, we have orders to respond to, and we have music to play. Right. So every few seconds, well, every minute or so, we have something to do. The guards don't. Yeah, you keep your blood flowing. Mostly your mind's busy. It's really your mind. Yeah, but when you're playing, your blood's flowing, and true. Right? Yeah, and that's you're pumping half the battle. Yeah, that's half the battle when you're on parade. So when I did my first year at ceremonial guard, our residence was at Old Uplands Base. So I hear one of you two was at Uplands Base some time ago. No, it wasn't you. Maybe it was Jill Younghusband then. So yeah, it was Jill. Yeah. So Uplands Base here in Ottawa is the old military air command, I guess. Because there's the airport there, and we were in the old barracks worthy of the Korean War or something. Yeah. Really tinder boxes that were just waiting to explode. And that's when I was looking into stuff like Rosicrucianism, temple magic, all kinds of weird things. Now, the funny thing is that the band of the ceremonial guard is selected. So the guards themselves, they're grenadier guards or governor general. So they're actually reserve guardsmen. They're actual soldiers. But the band, because we're representing the Queen in Ottawa, they want to get the best possible musicians. So what they do is that they go to all the universities across Canada and they pick the 10 best from each province to try to get representation from each province. And by doing auditions for a very, very well-paid summer, they get the best musicians that way through the auditions. It's an actual Christian religion. So there I was reading Rosicrucianism, reading about witchcraft. I actually tried a few things out in the field on a number of occasions. If you're going to read about it, might as well try it. So they started calling me the witch doctor. And I was bunked with some of those Salvation Army people, and I was not appreciated too well on account of that. No, I can imagine. What kind of Satanism stuff are you doing there? Yeah, I can only imagine. Well, Halloween has monsters. Everybody has heard of a vampire. And yes. I'm pretty sure everybody believes they have met what we call an energy vampire, right? Somebody in your office who just sucks the life right out of you. Oh, yeah. Well,
yeah, I know a few of those.
Yeah.
Well, if you can imagine somebody who reads the Bible every night and who takes notes and who references it to a whole bunch of other books, and me reading my witch's Bible, that was kind of a recipe for disaster right now. And this is where you start believing that there's more to the world than your physical body and your your car and your rifle, because at night, a couple of times, I thought I slept well, but the next morning people were asking me, holy shit, Robin, how come you were dancing the funky chicken up in your bunk all night and stuff like that?
No.
And yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
God. Was that the only time you had anything kind of weird happen?
Oh gosh, no. Oh gosh, no. At Citadelle de Quebec, well, yeah, I'll continue with ceremonial guard. So that very same summer, as I was reading these things, so the band at ceremonial guard is 100 musicians strong. So we're divided into 3 sections of 30 people, and we'd have 6 days on duty, 3 days off, leave. So what would happen is that you'd always have 2 bands working together at the same time. So you'd always have, an overlap, and the parade on Parliament Hill would always be 60-piece band plus 6 pipers in the back. But on Uplands airfield, an airfield is a magnet for thunderstorms, for lightning.
Mm-hmm.
And we had this thing that we called it the CG dome, where it would be raining cats and dogs at breakfast time and during PT. But it would all of a sudden get sunny for the time it takes to do the parade, the changing of the guard, and get back to the Governor General Foot Guard's armories.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as you'd get back on the bus, it would rain again. So
That's suspicious.
yeah. But one day I was on leave and the dome must have had a crack or something. They did their parade downtown, but at Uplands Base, that's near the airport, it was raining something awful. And like I said, an airfield is a magnet for lightning. So we were in barracks that probably dated from the Korean War or something, Vietnam for sure. They were just waiting to go up in fire, and you could see the lightning hitting the ground and getting closer and hitting the ground and getting closer. So I said, oh shit, we're done for it. So I look in this book and there's this thing called ritual banishing of the earth. Well, maybe I can ritually banish water, and maybe that will banish the thunderstorm, and maybe we won't get hit by lightning, and maybe we'll survive this thing. So if it's water, I figure, well, I'll go into the showers, I'll turn on the showers, and as part of it, I'll start it with everything, all the faucets going, and at the end of the ritual, all the faucets will be turned off, and that'll be the symbolism for banishing the water. So of course, other people were on leave and they saw me do it. And some of them were Salvation Army, Bible thumping Christians. So they didn't like that too much. And as Murphy's Law would have it, as I turn off the last faucet, you hear lightning had hit this huge tree that was right outside of our barracks, split it in half. Killed the tree. It smoked for about an hour after that. It's crazy. So the next day, I found myself having breakfast alone, having lunch alone. People were kind of. I had to do PT with them, but they were not talking to me at all. The rumor is that I had caused the blinking storm and I was bringing the lightning onto the barracks.
Oh no.
Complete contrary to what I was actually doing.
You tried to stop it and they thought you caused it. Oh my God, Robin.
So that's why neo-pagans and Christians don't get along too well, I guess.
You think? So you saying you were at the Citadel? There must have been, because I know,
Quebec.
Yeah, because I know the Kingston, Fort Henry here in Kingston. Lots of ghost stories come out of there. They have their big Halloween thing there every year.
Well, they're going to have more ghost stories over there because Fort Henry is actually a living museum. It's not even military as far as I know. But Citadelle de Quebec is an active military base.
Okay.
It's one of the many residences of the Governor General. and it's an active military base. You'll have soldiers. I don't know what kind of training they do there, but they're housed there while they go to Valcartier and stuff like that. It's more of a posh summer resort as far as we bandsmen are concerned. They also have changing of the guard, but it's not an official function mandated by the Queen. This is more of a PR tourism thing negotiated with Ville de Québec, City of Quebec, every year.
Isn't the goat there too?
Well, that's pretty cool because Le Royal 22e Régiment, their mascot is a goat.
Yeah.
The years that I went there, they didn't have it because of budget cuts. So in nostalgic appreciation for the mascot, I wrote a military march in honor of Baptiste, the goat for the Royal 22e Régiment. Yeah. But so they don't have so many ghost stories because it's always active. However, I do from Citadelle de Québec. That was, like I said, I looked in a whole bunch of things. One of the things that I looked into is called Reiki. And it's I mean,
I know Ricky. Yeah. Oh, good God, there's more.
This one is spooky.
Okay.
Now, I guess pretty much everybody knows what a Ouija board is.
Oh, yes.
All right. So the real name is Ouija board. It comes from the French oui and the German ja with a J.
Yeah.
And it means yes in both cases. And for those who don't know, it's a board with all the letters of the alphabet and the numbers and yes, no, and goodbye written on it. And you have this
shuttle.
Good. Exactly. Shuttle is the exact right word. It can be a glass or it can be a planchette of wood. It can be almost anything. But it's a shuttle that people put one finger on, and apparently it moves by itself. I played with that thing. All by myself. I'm not convinced that the planchette moves by itself. I really do think that it's muscular action of the people. However, even if it comes from muscular action of people, if you believe that there's more to the world than your bodies in the material world, if you believe there's evil, and if you believe there are angels, if you believe in all of that stuff, they can work through you. Okay, that's starting to sound really weird. So disclaimer, I do not recommend the Ouija to anybody, period. Don't play with that piece of garbage. It doesn't matter if it's real or not. It doesn't matter if it works or not. My experience with it is that people can get addicted to it for psychological reasons, and you go downhill from there. I have rarely heard of good experiences coming from the Ouija. It's garbage. Don't touch it.
Well, I remember back in my day when I was a kid, we used to play Bloody Mary in the mirror. Did you do that?
No, but
no, it might be a girl thing. Well, we'd always be like, you didn't play that?
No.
We would be in the mirror, and then back then I remember my mom having like a huge mirror on her dresser, and then me and my brother would go there, and then what we would have to do is put like a dime on our hand, and you'd say Bloody Mary, and then you look at the mirror, and then it'd be dark. You try to make it dark, and then you turn around like 3 times, and then you say Bloody Mary, and then after you would look at it, and the thing is that she would come and take the money on your hand, right? But then you start looking at it, and then your eyes start like making you think it's going black because all you're waiting for it, and then you're like, ah! And then me and my brother would like run. Oh my God, we saw her! Ah! It was crazy.
Yeah, plays tricks on you. But those things too, they're fun when you're a kid. But I mean, most kids are not problems, especially back in our days. We used to know how to take a joke, and we used to know how to sticks and stones will break your bones, but names will never hurt you kind of things. It's really not the same thing today anymore. So
Gen Xers rule.
yeah. So anyway, I just don't recommend those things. It doesn't matter if the spirit stuff is real or not. Just the psychological side is risky. But anyway, so at Citadelle de Québec, People had heard that I had been studying witchcraft and Rosicrucianism and Templar magic and all kinds of stuff. So they said, "Hey, Robin, we want to do a Ouija board tonight. Do you want to come?" And I said, okay. I've had enough experiences in the army, outside of the army, that I know what can happen. So I'll go there. But I'll go there more like the master corporal who's looking after his troops kind of thing. You know, they're going to do stupid and they're going to do stupid stuff. And I'm going to be there to handle the situation, right? So we go there at night. One of the parts of the Stadel, the ladies, the men were in actual barracks in the Citadel walls. But the ladies, of course, we had to be separate. They were in the officers' quarters. So we all went to the officers' quarters, but in the laundry room, because that's the only place that we could all of us get together, ladies and men together. So they take out their Ouija board and they turn on light candles and turn off the lights. And they start doing this thing and they start asking questions, and the planchette moves and they start asking questions. And me, as a scientifically minded person, I didn't have my master's in computer engineering yet, but I still was scientifically minded. I couldn't tell if it was their own subconscious that was making them move or if there was anything else. But the planchette was answering questions correctly of things that the people sitting at the table did not know, but somebody else in the room didn't know. So, but we're all friends. So maybe the people at the table didn't know. They talked about it before a year ago or something, who knows, right? But all of a sudden, so Citadel de Quebec is an active military base. A lot of times it's a layover for officers who are coming in from Europe, going to Valcartier or going to their postings in somewhere else in Canada. So it's a layover. So this one guy comes in, officer, of course, to do his laundry. And he looks at us. Oh, oops, sorry. No, it's okay. It's the laundry room. You're the officer. We have no business. So he starts his laundry, and that's all we say. And he goes away. So they say, "Hey, let's see if this Ouija board thing is legitimate or not. That guy who just came in, what's his name?" So it answers Marin, Marin. No, he's not a marin. He's not a Navy guy, because we saw his uniforms. They are Army uniforms. So what's his name? Marin, Marin. Do you mean Martin? Marin. So it really repeated that at least 3 times. So the guy comes back to put his laundry in the dryer, of course. So we ask him, we say, "Hey, is your name Martin or is it Marin?" Because we asked the board and it said Marin. The guy didn't say a word. His face turned white. And I mean flush white like a ghost. He runs out, not saying a word, comes back with his military ID card and shows us his military ID card, Marin something or other. Marin was his given name, not Martin, but Marin. And he said, "I knew if I told you, you wouldn't believe me. So here's proof. My name is Marin. How the hell did you know that?"
Oh my gosh. I just got a little chill there.
Yeah.
That's
so
weird.
Everybody else did too. We continued playing with the Ouija board all night. And at that point, because this is a chilling, scary, bizarre kind of thing to happen, you never end a Ouija board game without the planchette saying goodbye, because the notion is if it doesn't say goodbye and if it's a spirit, it's going to stay with you, and you don't want that. You really don't want that. Whether it's a real spirit or whether it's just psychological, I don't care. You don't want that kind of idea going on. And if it really is a spirit, geez, you don't want that going on.
That's right.
So it would not say goodbye, and everybody was insisting, "Okay, time to go to bed. We have rehearsal in a few hours." And when the sun comes up, so it would not go away. So I said, "All right, I just learned this Reiki stuff." So I put my hands around one of the candles and I just start concentrating on the flame. I did not need to blow on the candle. It just snuffed itself out and the planchette said goodbye.
Whoa.
All good.
Ooh.
So now, so now it's like, I want to know, because this is a Halloween special, I want to know your favorite Halloween, like best, like spooky movie.
Oh, that's easy. The Exorcist. Come on.
What
The
about you,
original
Matt?
Exorcist. That's
Oh,
easy. It's not the scariest movie of all time, but holy cheese, does
no.
it ever play with your
So
mind?
you and I aren't that far apart in age, Robin. And I'll bet you remember back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And that one movie, When a Stranger Calls.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
but there's a story. We used to have to go babysit in this old house. This old house by ourselves in the middle of nowhere. And back then we had the dial rotary phones.
Mhm.
So you could call yourself from your same phone,
Yeah, you could.
right? But my mother thought it was funny when we were up there babysitting to call us like they did in the Stranger Calls. And what did it say? Are you watching the children or something? What was it? It was just so creepy. Where are the children? Like, oh my God. My mother would do that. I was ready to kill her. I really was.
My most scariest movie would have to be like Friday the 13th and Jason. That's my
Oh.
generation. Friday the 13th scared me like
See, I'm into
a lot.
the psychological ones are the ones that scare me more than the gory horror.
When you're young, the blood and guts scare you.
Yeah.
They really do. But I was a kid when Stephen King's Salem's Lot came out on TV. And it's not gory. It's about vampires in Vermont. But when I saw that movie, I don't remember if I was 10 years old or 8 years old or something like that on TV. I swear our house is haunted or on some Indian burial ground or something like that. It's my home is spooky. People get the chills for no explanation. We can't explain it. We just get the heebie-jeebies.
Or like the Pet Cemetery.
Yeah.
That scared me too.
Yeah. Have you ever been into a house like that, Jose, where it's just not right? Like it just. Have you ever?
Probably like, but sometimes I tell myself I watch too many horror movies. Like I'll look like an old chair, especially dolls. Like if there's like little dolls and a clown, and then I'm always like, uh-oh, is the doll gonna move?
Clowns.
Or
I hate clown dolls.
I know, me too.
Yeah. Not a big fan. So I was house hunting once in an older community. It was like a little Mayberry, eh? It's just this beautiful little quiet town with all these old century homes. And this one that we went into, everything seemed fine. And then we went to the attic, and it was probably a grow up at one point up there because but it was all blacked out, and it was, I got up there, and it was just
freaky.
I couldn't go past the stairs.
Well, it's like funny, because I've met a lot of people who've had all kinds of really, really, really weird and evil experiences. And as luck would have it, they were potheads and drunks and all kinds of stuff.
And so now you just you're just doing your working as a
software engineer.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And playing music on the side. And
yeah,
how often does the symphony play, the orchestra play?
We practice once a week, and we do one concert in December, another concert in the late winter, so beginning of March, or late February, beginning of March, and one in the late spring, early summer.
And so for anybody who wants to follow the Canada Symphony Orchestra, is there a website for them? Or
CanadaSymphony.ca, so KANADA Symphony, SYMPHONY.ca. Kanata was apparently the original name for Canada.
Yes.
It meant that village over there. Kanata Symphony.ca.
Okay.
And what about your
Perfect.
YouTube? Do you still have the YouTube channel?
Oh yeah, I'll have to send you the links to that one because that one's harder
Okay.
to find. The easiest way is to go to robindeshautbois.ca/music.
There you go.
Robin, ROBINDESHAUTBOIS.ca/music. Aubois is
Okay.
HAUTBOIS.
Yeah.
But we'll have the
Well,
links in
And
our bio
I'll
too.
send you the
Yeah.
links. That's the
Yeah.
best place to go is my website.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we had no idea what he was gonna come out with, so it's all
And
good. No.
And again, I want to thank you for doing this because I guarantee you, I won't be the only ex-serviceman veteran to have spooky stories, and maybe they'll want to share them. Maybe they'll feel more comfortable with them. It doesn't matter if you're an atheist or a Christian or an Indian. A very good friend of mine in the army, she's in the Reg Force now, clarinet player. She's more than half Mohawk. She has her Indian name now and all that kind of stuff, Anishinaabe name. And she has some spooky stories too, but I won't get her into that.
So in the meantime, everybody would like to sign off. Take care.
Farewell.
Thank you so
Happy
much. Goodbye, everybody.
Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. We'll see. Heading outside the wire. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.